Okay, here we go. Femininity is a highly important ideology in the religion of Islam. So much so that the people, men and women included, of its religion, or the viewers like you and I, are inherently blind to seeing its true blatancy due to it being highly overlooked and disregarded in its society. After many hours and months of my accumulated solitude, I came to the conclusion in my pondering hours that femininity is truly a divinely gifted power bestowed upon all of mankind by God Almighty, by Allah. Dare I say, the answer to almost everything, and the correction to most of society's problems. Whether masculine energy is present or not in modern day due to its repression, however, even that in theory would be incorrect, as femininity in a woman naturally triggers masculinity in a man. That is how we differentiate ourselves from men, and most importantly is where our true power lies. How, you say? It is truly the glue holding society and generations who came and to come intact and civil. The outcome of femininity in women of society is a balance of energy to achieve peace, harmonious relations, and as a woman, your true equality lies in that power. If you're curious to see why this is, continue watching with an open mind and maybe you'll learn a few new things about yourself or the women in your life. Before starting, I would like to put a caveat that some things I may say might come off as harsh, and I do not mean to offend or mock anyone's belief system. So if you're easily triggered, now's the time to click out. Islam is the religion of Allah, and from His wisdom, He has commanded us, His believers, many things throughout our life to obey, through the Holy Quran, and through His beloved Prophet's life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and His family, alayhim salam, as an example for us. Of course, there are things certain for men and certain things for women to specifically follow according to their weaknesses and desires. It is important when learning about how femininity is idealized in a woman in Islam to understand both sides of the spectrum before making any assumptions about how generally men are today. We cannot base our statements or judgments without analyzing the masculine energy at large, as one doesn't naturally exist without the other. Nowhere can the notion be drawn that men and women are equals and or on the same wavelength of deeds and character, nor match the same levels of piety, for example. It's a different experience for both people, for everyone of course if we're being honest. What I mean is that men face specific challenges befitting their impulses and therefore specific rules to follow, inspired by their nature and vice versa. Things which to us through the female lens might not be so hard to follow in their regard, or even personally for ourselves. For example, O Prophet, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity. That is pure for them. 24:30. A man has to lower his gaze from women regardless of what she is wearing. Through the female lens, this doesn't seem so hard to do, like just look away, right? I'm speaking for myself here, but I believe most girls can also follow this most of the time, or don't have trouble doing so naturally. So as a result, through our own perspective, we go on to naturally believe and assume that it shouldn't be so hard for them to not look a flashy or non-flashy female's way. But for men, it will be challenging without a doubt, since Allah placed this command onto them to obey. This is because He knows the difference between man and women, but of course He created them. Even though, right after that verse, it has been subsequently commanded for women to lower their gaze as well, but along with guarding their chastity and preserving their beauty and adornments. 24:31. Him, being the Creator, knows best how difficult it can be for men, so therefore a reward awaits them by not giving in to any urges and by controlling their desires. Now the version of this command is applicable specifically for women to follow, which is to be modest or maintain her haya through her appearance, language, behavior, and character. The men do their part and the women do their part. Notice I didn't just say her clothing, as it's your appearance, i.e. makeup, perfume, etc. It is a command directed to many things, primarily to strike the woman's vanity, where the struggle for women is subtly being addressed and conditioned in connection to the man's command earlier. And tell the believing women to lower their gaze and guard their chastity, not to reveal their adornments except for what normally appears. Let them draw their veils over their chests and not reveal their hidden adornments except to their husbands, their fathers, etc. This applies to any setting with an outsider or non-homebound men, and is an example of a command being specifically decreed upon women. It is a command directed towards the female vanity, which understandably can be challenging for most women. That's why it's commanded to us, hence it being a challenge, and helps effortlessly combat many of the problems society is facing today as a whole. As today, or quite frankly since the dawn of time, a woman's vanity has been held at the stakes for all to pass judgment on, or to comment and dictate what's beautiful and what isn't, what's valid and what is invalid, stirring the unending need in us to find validation through men and compete with other women, which are masculine traits, by the way, creating a lack in our self-security and self-sufficiency, as well as creating a discontentment with our own appearance by accepting or rejecting us as beautiful or not, and by objecting us through the exterior alone. I believe that the relationship with your body, your appearance, is deeply personal, yet societies around the world are convincing and pushing women to adhere to unrealistic beauty standards which were not even created by women in the first place. Or maybe they were, who knows? As a result of this, industries glamorize the need to spend endless amounts of money to try out new trends or procedures that hit the market, some of which that can be incredibly dangerous and harmful to your life, with the false promise of making a woman feel beautiful and appear acceptable looking, or be deemed as attractive for the current trend of that year, all in order to feel accepted and to please society, and achieve the forever unattainable validation which is altering on a yearly basis. This truly sounds like the real oppression to me. How there's been brainwashing to such a degree that women are willing to turn a blind eye to something that could potentially take their life in some extreme cases. There's no benefit to us in partaking these acts, but simply to others. Others being men whom you don't know nor should care about. This, to me, all boils down to the lack of haya or modesty, the character trait. For example, I want people to look at me, to notice me, to validate me if I'm attractive in the eyes of the world, how to win society's approval, the need to fit in, etc., etc. A good way to tell if this is true or not, that we do this for other people, is to ask yourself, would I look the way I think I need to look if no one was ever able to see it and compliment or to comment about it? Another introspection to test yourself with is, if the entire world was blind, would I still feel the need to look the way I aspire myself to look? What would looking a certain way achieve? How would the result of that change in your appearance then? And how would you carry yourself then? You see, it's all ego-driven and based purely on the outer self, the mere shell of the soul, which is the opposite of maintaining a modest character. Second, a lack of self-assurance, loss of identity, and the scarcity of femininity in women today. It becomes a chain reaction from feeling insecure about something, then easily being led and giving into the foolishness of the media and suggestions of others and society, to then, as a result, being treated based solely on your appearance, hence inadvertently allowing the cycle to repeat itself as a fragile disposition. How this relates to Islam, or how the verse prior had mentioned the solution to mostly these debacles us women face regularly regarding our vanity and or reputation that may come with it. To put it short and sweet, guarding your beauty forces you to pay attention to what the most valuable part of you is, and to further enhance and connect to that. It is more about what is inside, and thus encourages you to connect with your femininity on a deeper level, as that is what will nurture and heal your energy in the best and most positive way. The purpose of the verse is a command of maintaining a modest character both within as well as your outer appearance, is simply to protect yourself from unnecessary attention unbefitting to you, to keep you out of harm's way, like the evil eye, for example, or danger or harm from the outside world. as well as shattering the constant need and approval from others by not allowing them to see what God gifted you, and breaking free from any sort of conformity to what the ideal woman looks like. A concept created by mere mortals like you and I who couldn't know any better. Here, he is granting you freedom by enlightening you of your power and telling you as it is, that you are in full control of your modesty, your beauty, and who you grant access to see, and what information of yours you choose to keep private, as all of that only belongs to you. A woman is, if anything, but a thing unknown, for a feminine woman cannot be truly and fully described by words, as she is totally entrenched in her own mystique. The Quran verse introduces you to your power in your feminine modesty by conveying this very meaning. Therefore, this is where true liberation can ever truly be found for the female kind, because it is freeing and separating you from what society or a particular set of men find attractive or suitable regarding how a woman should look or shouldn't look. How being picked apart as if you're being studied for the world to see, or being compared to other women who they deem prettier, and of course as well as what a pretty one makes, and what doesn't. Who gave anyone, other than the Lord himself, the right to tell you how you should or shouldn't look? From any magazine or pop culture stereotype of what is pretty, to cultural advertisement, to remarks from other brainwashed women, all of it proves pointless and unattainable because of how simply doesn't add up to its inconsistencies. Through the lens of Islam, this all seems measly and an incredibly lowly way of thinking. It is a pathetic trap to fall into regarding your self-worth, self-esteem, which stems a lot from your vanity. However, this is not belittling the vanity challenges which lead to them taking certain avenues to help better the situation, but ironically end up feeling worse than before. To combat falling into this unending misery loop, Allah himself is creating and raising your value so that no one else can, and validating you by putting your charms and appearance on a pedestal by instructing you to cover and guard it, your beauty, because your beauty is worth not being seen by one and all. This act raises and increases its value through protection and the gift of God, that is mystery. Allah himself is setting the standard to your beauty by simply reassuring you that you are in need of no one, in need of no one's validation. The only rubric you need begins from within, and naturally, purity, the glow and self-assurance of yourself within you will radiate onto your face in ways you simply can't imagine, and as a result of that, everything else won't hold as much weight anymore. To sum it up, a thing of value is never put out for show and for all to see. If there is access to something so easily, it loses its value and is not considered important to the human subconscious. Ponder with me. No important thing or thing of immense value in this world has gone unprotected or unguarded for not even a sliver of a second. Take the royal palace as an example, as it has human guards standing on guard, day and night. A castle would have a moat with a crocodile in it and a chain drawbridge. When at Tiffany's, or any other diamond store for that matter, everything is sealed and locked in a glass case with tons of cameras and security guards. And if you find something that catches your eye, you have to request a sales representative to validate you enough to locate a key for you to be allowed to see it for what it is, especially for a couple of seconds. These are silly and fruitless examples in comparison to a woman and the value Allah appoints to her beauty, but hopefully you get the picture. In Islam, the female holds all the power regarding her appearance, her self-esteem and emotions, who and what can make her feel a certain way, who she deems suitable for marriage, this is her and her decision alone, etc., etc. This is because a feminine woman in Islam is aware of and is connected to this very power that is her femininity, and gratefully so, where enters the modesty, as well as her rights that Allah has bestowed upon her, to which she is fully deserving of. Femininity is not just the concept or the trope of everything pink and sweet and bows and sparkles. This, I believe, is an incredibly lacking term for explaining femininity. It is much rather an aura, an energy that comes and creates life and brings it into fruition through the will of Allah. However, at the same time, not limited to only that role either, as big as it is. You see, femininity has endless forms, but the core energy is very baseline. And the most key thing to your femininity is always maintaining an air of mystery. Now, what is it and what does it even mean? Mysterious is often used to describe something that is not fully understood or comprehended, while mystical refers to something spiritual or beyond ordinary understanding. In other words, ladies with this trait are thought to be special, and people do not know much about them. The very meaning of a woman is a creature that can never be fully understood or comprehended, as she is so complex, and as a result of this cannot be categorized to fit into a box or even labeled as a certain thing for life. Such a thing would be contrary to her very being and potential. And that is exactly my point here. Islam, time and time again, subtly highlights the treasure that is a feminine woman, not by only commanding her to cover her outer self, but to also veil her inner self, energy, time, personal information, etc., all from the world, and be selective with it simply to protect her mystique and her radiating aura to keep her pedestal high. After all, Jannah does lie beneath your mother's feet. Mystique is probably the best way to tell apart a woman connected to her feminine energy from a woman low in her femininity. The reason why mystery is so important is because it is a middle ground that conjoins modesty and femininity together and completes it. Once you have delved into your feminine mystique, not only through your appearance but by your life and the information you disclose and personal details or stories, certain life events, good or bad habits, good or bad deeds, and stopped broadcasting everything about yourself to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, you have truly freed yourself from the torment the society repeatedly labels on the women of today. This perfectly ties us back to the verse Allah had brought down for us women. You see, now the beauty of this very verse has become much clearer. When he mentioned a woman guarding her chastity and remaining a modest character, he is referring to every fiber to the woman he created, and therefore introducing us to our true value and the power that lies within it. Which seems the opposite for the Western mindset, as apparently the more you talk and reveal yourself, figuratively and then of course literally too, the more liberated, free, and independent you become. Sadly enough, this notion is totally backwards and continuously unsuccessful. Obtaining the mindset of mystique because you are a beautiful creature of value and known to many except to yourself refrains you from not only dressing a certain way, thank goodness, but also allows you to maintain classiness and modesty in conversations and interactions from close loved ones to completely new people. In different situations of your life, this mindset refrains you from bragging and boasting your achievements or whatever may puff up your ego, which is definitely not a modest character. Little doses of little bragging here and there surely amount to a character leaning more towards arrogance and complete complacency and disregard for social etiquette. Retaining an air of mystery so that you decide who gets access to you, to your mind, your time, and precious energy. Once attained, it truly elevates yourself in character and in soul. By setting boundaries, you are essentially setting up a white fence across yourself and guarding your precious feminine energy. By failing to secure and protect yourself through boundaries, it becomes easier for people to try and figure you out, which can lead to the possibility of harm for the woman, people using you for personal gain, and the list goes on and on. All of these things have been thought by Allah and then some. Of course, this is how I have personally linked the two ideologies of modesty and mystique together, how they go hand in hand when connecting with and igniting your femininity, which in return strengthens your bond with yourself and who you are by realizing your true purpose and value, which isn't defined by your body shape or society, but in fact by Allah. And so, whose opinion of you matters more? This is simply the wisdom of your Lord and nothing else, that He's commanding you to keep away something so precious and beautiful that everyday eyes shouldn't have access to, as you are deserving of that, and indeed there is goodness in that. Muslim or non-Muslim, this is the way a feminine woman should conduct herself, by maintaining standards for herself, knowing her boundaries, and to put her aura and energy first by protecting it with the essential air of mystique. These are all the ways how a woman is honored in Islam. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was once asked which type of woman is best. He replied, "When you look at her, you feel happiness." In order to achieve this type of grand quality and status, a woman must cultivate her life with things that she truly loves and keep herself in that happy, carefree, juicy energy, whatever it may be, as long as it's halal, of course. Any woman flourishing in her feminine energy is ultimately happy with herself and self-actualized by the life she lives, since this allows her to bloom into the state she has naturally been given. Femininity in a woman is truly one of the most powerful energies in the entire universe. Why wouldn't it be? She's a vessel of life, something of high value, something to be respected and protected, cherished and guarded by any of the four men, her father, her brother, husband or son, assigned for her protection by the Lord Himself. This title, honor, and respect had been crowned to women by Islam 1400 years ago, in a way that no other religion has come to terms with even adopting yet today. You see, the beauty of femininity is that it's the heart of modesty in women, and you can truly not have one without the other, as stated earlier, which is why it is difficult to talk about the feminine energy without diving deep into its other half, which lies in her purity. Now, femininity really ties everything together in a pretty golden bow, as I like to imagine. Although modesty in Islam is obviously stated to be the most prominent and valued trait in a woman, all of that is impossible to successfully attain without the sheer essence of femininity from the start. The difference between the two is that modesty is a characteristic in one's personality, which isn't subjected only to women, but is beautiful and wholesome when found in men as well. But femininity is a way of being, a lifestyle, an energy, an aura, a whole vibe exclusive to women. This is a very profound thing, because my theory is that a woman in her feminine energy is easily able to flow into her natural roles by understanding and implementing her responsibilities as daughter, sister, wife, or mother correctly and with her own generated pleasure. When a woman is found in this wonderfully relaxed, passionate, positive, sensual, warm, cooperative, gentle energy, it is truly as if the stars aligned. Families are found to be happier, marriages and friendships tend to last longer, healthily, all when a woman steps into her biological God-given role. Overall, everything falls into place and conjoins harmony. This is all because femininity nurtures and beautifies the lives around her, primarily her loved ones. This plants the seeds to a long-lasting peaceful presence and dilutes any negativity from the day-to-day stress and hustle and bustle in the lives of their loved ones, including the ones surrounding them like their neighbors, and with that, the community by and large. Modesty is an integral part of femininity, the foundation in which femininity exists, but femininity as a whole is enchanting on its own, say especially in times of strife. The feminine energy is incredibly needed in such dire situations in order to get through such rough times. Having a pure, undoubting belief and faith, an unshakable tawakkul, that everything will work out in the end, containing gratitude and resilience, and being able to see the good in times of adversity. Always looking for the glass half full, and not half empty. Remaining grateful and having gratitude at all times for what the Lord has given you, and to be thankful to Him always, accepting that when He endlessly gives, He's also capable of taking it back. God forbid. And for this reason, never allowing any big or little hubris get in the way of our blessings. To be able to step back from your natural egotistical views and look at the bigger picture by trusting in the plan He has for you. Easier said than done for sure, which is why it holds so much merit and value when someone is able to act this way through hardships, whatever they may be. And on that note, my loves, concludes this video, but definitely not the topic. I really hope you enjoyed or learned a thing or two from this video. Hopefully your view on the importance of femininity broadened a little, and or you now know and realize the blessing it is to have a woman in your life, regardless of her age or experience. What topics are you interested in me covering next? I have a million ideas, and that usually hinders which topic to do when. If you have any ideas, comments, questions, or even concerns, please state them in the comment section and I will definitely respond to them. Thank you for watching and being here. It fills my heart with joy to see you elevate yourself in order to flourish in your femme. I'll see you feminine fairies in the next video, inshallah. And salam alaikum. Toodles!